3 days before anyone found a body, a lawyer in Montana picked up the phone and told the police there had been a murder. His name was Roger Renville. He had come across a video that morning on a website that featured real footage of real deaths, and what he saw convinced him that it wasn't staged. He called his local sheriff, he called the FBI, he called Toronto police because he suspected the killer might be from Toronto. He later said the officer told him his story didn't make sense. Why would a killer film himself and then put the evidence on the internet? Nothing moved. That is, until human body parts started arriving in the mail. This is the case of Jun Lin. If you or your child spent years growing up on social media and experienced serious mental health struggles, you should hear this. Recently, a jury ordered Meta and YouTube to pay millions for their role in designing and promoting addictive platforms. They knew their apps could contribute to anxiety, depression, and body image issues, but didn't share those risks while prioritizing profits. The recent historic verdict underscores the consequences of those decisions. Now, Morgan & Morgan is stepping up to hold these platforms accountable for the harm they caused. Click the link in my bio to take a short quiz. You may be entitled to a potential recovery of over $1,000. On the morning of May 29, 2012, a package was opened at the Ottawa headquarters of Canada's Conservative Party. Inside, wrapped in pink tissue paper, was a human foot. There was a note with it, a few lines on pink paper naming Prime Minister Stephen Harper and his wife, saying the two of them had made a very bad mistake. The Conservative headquarters went into lockdown. Within the same hour, Canada Post workers elsewhere in Ottawa flagged a second suspicious parcel, this one addressed to the Liberal Party of Canada. Inside was a left hand. And that same day, over 100 miles away in the Montreal neighborhood of Snowdon, a building janitor finally walked over to the blue suitcase that had been left behind the garbage bins. He had been avoiding it for days, but it had a smell like rotting meat and it had become unbearable. He opened it and was totally unprepared for what he found. Inside was a human torso. It had no head, no hands, no feet. He called 911. 3 discoveries, 2 cities, all of them reported within hours of each other. And behind every one of them was one person who had arranged each delivery with deliberate, unhurried care. Within hours, investigators were pulling security footage from the building where the suitcase had been found. What they saw raised immediate questions. A thin man with dark hair making trip after trip out to the trash over the previous days. Garbage bags, cleaning supplies, boxes, the image of someone systematically emptying an apartment. And in one clip, on his way out, he paused in the lobby to check himself in the mirror. But who was he? And more importantly, whose body had he carried downstairs? 2 days earlier, a man named Dong Xu had walked into a police station. His friend, Jun Lin, had been missing for more than 60 hours. Dong had gone to Jun's apartment and found a hungry cat alone and a frying pan with eggs still on the counter. Jun wasn't at home, and he hadn't shown up for his part-time job in 2 days. Dong was told to check with the university, but he had no luck. A formal missing person report was filed the same day the torso turned up. Looking at the apartment building's CCTV footage from May 24th, around 10:20 p.m., investigators saw a man fitting Jun's description walking into the building with that thin, dark-haired man. The two of them chatting, holding the door for each other. A few hours later, the man walked out alone. Jun never appeared again. Within the next couple of days, the Montreal police had identified the victim and the suspect seen in the footage. The victim was Jun Lin, the man who had been reported missing. He was a 33-year-old engineering and computer science student at Concordia University. The police were, they said, 99.99% certain it was him. And they were right. DNA later confirmed it. Then there was the suspect, Luka Magnotta, 29 years old, a former escort and aspiring porn actor. An arrest warrant was issued on charges of first-degree murder and committing an indignity to a human body. And so, they had their victim, they had their suspect. But there was a problem. Luka was already gone. Flight records showed he left for Paris on May 26, within hours of his last trip to throw out garbage. While the hunt was on to track Luka down, investigators discovered a video. Uploaded on May 25th to a gore website, it was roughly 11 minutes long and was given the title, "One Lunatic, One Ice Pick." It featured Luka and Jun. What the camera recorded was not the killing. That had happened beforehand. It would later be determined that Luka had drugged Jun and slit his throat. The video showed what he did to Jun's body afterward. Using a screwdriver painted silver to look like an ice pick, he stabbed Jun's flesh. It's believed that Luka was recreating a scene from a movie he was obsessed with, the 1992 thriller Basic Instinct. He had considered everything, the prop, the camera angles, the actions, but he went even further, performing sexual acts with Jun's body and dismembering it in front of the camera. All of the footage was cut together and set to New Order's True Faith. Tragically, on the evening of May 29th, Dong Dong heard people talking about this video. He went looking for it, and that is how he learned what had happened to his friend. The video would also be viewed by forensic biologist Jason Prévost, who arrived at the apartment in the early hours of May 30th. She watched the video twice, once to know where to look and once while she was working, matching what was in front of her against what was on the screen. She spent over 2 hours in the apartment, analyzing bloodstains on the bed frame, blood spatter on the walls, blood pooled on the floor. She collected 94 pieces of evidence, and the DNA testing confirmed what they already knew. Jun's blood was everywhere, mixed with Luka's DNA. The manhunt for Luka was global. The dismembered body, the video, and the escape had made the story international news. Interpol issued a red notice. But here's what's unbelievable. He wasn't really hiding. He was in Paris, staying in hotels, sitting in cafes, moving around like any other tourist. Then on June 2nd, he took a bus to Berlin and stayed 2 nights with someone he knew. During his time in Berlin, he walked into an internet cafe in the Neukölln district, sat down, and started reading articles about himself. The cafe owner recognized him and called the police. When they arrived, they found Luka looking at his own Interpol photograph on the screen. He tried to give a false name at first, but then he admitted who he was. By June 4th, 10 days after Jun was killed, his killer was in custody. And yet, the horror wasn't over. On June 5th, a staff member at an elementary school in Vancouver opened a package just after 1 in the afternoon and found a human hand. Later that afternoon, staff at a private boys' school in the same city found a foot. Both had been mailed from Montreal before Luka ever left the country. One of the Vancouver boxes contained a poem, printed in block capitals. "Roses are red, violets are blue. They are going to need dental records to identify you." At the bottom of the box, there was a hand-drawn heart. With the discovery of these packages, most of Jun's body had been recovered, but his head still hadn't been found. It wouldn't be recovered until July, when a tip led police to a park in the southwest of the city, and they located it at the edge of a pond. It had been left exposed to the weather for weeks. Eventually, after retrieving all of Jun's remains, the authorities turned his body over to his family. Finally, he could be laid to rest. Jun was cremated on July 11th, 2012, once his remains were finally complete. His ashes were interred at Notre-Dame-des-Neiges Cemetery in Montreal on July 26. Concordia University established the Jun Lin Family Fund to help cover the family's costs and created an award in his name to help other students. But who was Jun? The man at the center of the story was almost entirely erased by the noise around his death. The manhunt, the video, the international coverage, none of it produced much curiosity about who he actually was. Jun, who went by Justin or Patrick with his friends, was born December 30th, 1978 in Wuhan, China. His friends described him as being genuinely kind, the type of person who'd help someone without expecting anything back. He was trusting. Coming to Montreal in July 2011 to study computer engineering at Concordia was his dream. He'd been working in China for years, long hours, saving every bit he could to afford school in Canada. But this move represented something deeper than just education. It represented freedom. Jun was gay, and his family in China didn't know. Back home, there was pressure to marry a woman, to have the traditional family his parents wanted. He'd actually been married once to a woman, but they divorced, and his family never knew the real reason behind their separation. But Canada offered him the chance to pursue a new life. When a teacher in a business course in Montreal asked Jun what his goal in life was, he said it was to find love. And for a time, he did. For around a year and a half, he'd had a boyfriend named Lin. They separated days before the murder, under the weight of that same family pressure to marry and settle down. But they didn't fall out of each other's lives. Feng was traveling in May 2012, and the two of them kept texting, 40 or 50 times a day. Jun worked part-time at a convenience store to pay his way and took French classes on top of his coursework. He wanted to integrate because he wanted to stay in Canada after graduating, maybe start his own business. He had just moved into a new place at the start of May and was building toward the life he wanted. Jun had his whole future ahead of him. But one man stole that from him. Now, how he crossed paths with Luka is the one thing nobody has ever established. Police went through thousands of photographs, cell phone records, and email accounts looking for the connection, and found nothing. Luka himself later told psychiatrists that Jun had answered a Craigslist casual encounters advertisement he'd posted, and that the two of them met for the first time at the metro station that night. This account of events has never been corroborated, and we will likely never know. But what is certain is that on the evening of May 24th, 2012, Jun walked into a building on Des Carré Boulevard, and he never walked out. The man who made sure he'd never walk out of that building was Luka Magnotta, except he wasn't born as Luka Magnotta. He was born Eric Clinton Kirk Newman on July 24th, 1982, in Scarborough, Ontario, the eldest of 3 children. His childhood was troubled from the very start. According to Luka, his mother had an extreme obsession with cleanliness. He claimed she'd lock the kids out of the house sometimes, and that she once left their pet rabbits outside in the cold to die. Luka's father was diagnosed with schizophrenia when Luka was a teen. His parents divorced after that, and Luka went to live with his grandmother. His mother had homeschooled him until he was almost 16 because she didn't want her kids using public restrooms. So when Luka finally went to public school in Lindsay, Ontario, the adjustment was brutal. His father said he was bullied regularly and beaten up. At some point, he became obsessed with Marilyn Monroe. He felt he was ugly and so became enamored by the idea of being beautiful, looked at, and admired. His desperation for attention would feature heavily in the rest of his life. In his late teens, the hallucinations started, auditory and visual hallucinations. At 18, he went to Ross Memorial Hospital's emergency department, but he wouldn't talk about these hallucinations while his grandmother was there. One doctor described his behavior as bizarre and wrote, "I am not sure what we are dealing with." Luka was eventually diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, just like his father. He cycled through mental hospitals and group homes, got a disability allowance, but he also started working, first as a stripper, then as an escort. At some point, he developed an obsession with fame, but had very little success. Over a period of 5 years, he appeared in about a dozen porn films. Someone from an adult film database later said bluntly, not even the porn industry was much interested in him. And he wasn't living an honest life either. The fraud convictions started piling up in 2004 and 2005, thanks to his decision to take out credit cards in the name of a woman he had befriended and run up bills amounting to thousands of dollars. He spent 16 days in pretrial custody and received a conditional sentence. On August 12, 2006, he legally became Luka Magnotta. He said he wanted to erase bad memories and reinvent himself. By 2007, he was bankrupt, but he was still chasing that attention, and so he started auditioning for reality TV shows. He tried out for Cover Guy, an Out TV modeling reality series in 2007, stating that a lot of people said he was devastatingly good-looking. He was rejected, and his audition tape sat unwatched for 5 years, until June 2012, when CNN put it on television because the man in it had become the most wanted person in the world. He also auditioned for Plastic Makes Perfect, a plastic surgery show, in 2008. He was hoping for free procedures and exposure. Nothing came of it. A documentary about bisexuality in 2010. Nothing. He'd had multiple cosmetic surgeries by then, chasing an image of perfection that existed only in his head. And he'd also been busy manufacturing the attention he wasn't getting elsewhere. The police would eventually count at least 50 Facebook pages and 20 websites under different names. Fan pages praising him, photographs doctored to place him in luxury and in cities he'd never been to. He wrote Wikipedia entries about himself. He even wrote attacks on himself so he could then deny them. In 2007, a story went around that he was dating Karla Homolka, a woman who was convicted of manslaughter but is widely referred to as one of Canada's most notorious serial killers. Luka gave an interview to the Toronto Sun, denying it and claiming he was being stalked and set up. The reporter who sat with him came away thinking that Luka was clearly troubled, borderline delusional, and possibly the source of the rumor himself. All this was certainly unusual, something that might flag some concern if you witnessed this behavior in a friend or family member. But it wasn't dangerous, at least not until December 2010. That's when the true warning arrived. Luka posted a video to YouTube called One Boy, Two Kittens, in which 2 kittens were suffocated in a vacuum-sealed bag. It was real. He had just murdered 2 animals for attention. The internet came for him. A Facebook group formed to find whoever had made the video, and thousands of people joined, going through the footage frame by frame. They worked out the make of the vacuum killer. They identified the posters on the wall behind him. But it didn't stop him. Luka posted more videos, one showing him drowning a cat in a bathtub, another showing him feeding a kitten to a python. By January 2011, these internet sleuths had identified him, and they reported him to authorities with a very clear warning. Someone who tortures animals for attention like this will escalate to harming people. They were right. In December 2011, Alex West, a reporter for British tabloid The Sun, tracked Luka to a hotel above a pub in Wembley and confronted him about the kitten videos. The conversation lasted for half an hour, with West secretly recording. Luka denied everything, said he loved animals, and claimed the rumors were destroying his life. And yet, 2 days later, on December 10th, an email arrived at The Sun under the name John Kilbride, one of the children murdered by Ian Brady and Myra Hindley in the Moors murders. The message suggested that cats were just the beginning, and said that the next movie would involve humans. Less than 6 months later, Jun was dead. The trial opened on September 29th, 2014, more than 2 years after the murder. It lasted 10 weeks. There was testimony from dozens of witnesses, forensic pathologists, toxicologists, a forensic odontologist, bloodstain analysts, data recovery specialists, internet investigators. Luka pleaded not guilty 5 times. His lawyers had already conceded the facts. Yes, he killed Jun. Yes, he beheaded and dismembered him. Yes, he filmed it, posted it, and mailed the body parts. The only question the jury had to answer was whether he was criminally responsible. The defense claimed he was not. 2 psychiatrists testified that he suffered from paranoid schizophrenia, that he was psychotic at the time, hearing voices and unable to separate reality from fantasy. In one report, Luka described the night as an ambush. He said he had come to believe Jun was an agent sent to kill him. He also told that same psychiatrist that he had sent the email to Alex West, that it was stupid, and that he'd only meant to scare the reporter into leaving him alone. He insisted he had never planned to kill anyone. The prosecution's case was that all of it was theater. They had the email sent about 6 months in advance of the killing. They had a booked return flight and a route out of the country. They had surveillance footage of a man checking his hair in a lobby mirror between trips to the dumpster. They had the parcels addressed and stamped and dropped at a post office in his own neighborhood on camera. They had testimony that a week before the murder, he had brought another man back to that same apartment, a man who was seen the next day being helped down the stairs, walking with difficulty, and who police were never able to identify. The prosecutor told the jury the acts were planned and deliberate. Now, planning something does not by itself disprove psychosis. The legal question was, did the accused understand the nature of what he was doing? And did he know it was wrong? On December 15th, the jury was given its final instructions. Jurors deliberated for 8 days over whether or not Luka was criminally responsible for his actions. And then the foreman delivered 5 verdicts. Guilty of first-degree murder, guilty of committing an indignity to a human body, guilty of publishing obscene material, guilty of mailing obscene and indecent material, guilty of criminally harassing the Prime Minister and other members of Parliament. Luka showed no emotion. His eyes were down. He showed no reaction whatsoever. The sentence was automatic, life in prison with no eligibility for parole for 25 years. Jun's father, Jun Lin, traveled from China and followed the entire trial. He watched from a private room rather than sit in the courtroom with the man who had killed his son. But he was there for all of it, listening to every horrific detail of what had happened. His victim impact statement cut straight to the heart of the loss felt by the family. In one night, we lost a lifetime of hope. Our futures, parts of our past, he said. He added that he would never see Jun's smiling face, hearing about his new accomplishments, or hear his laugh. He would never again celebrate one of Jun's birthdays, and Jun wouldn't be around to celebrate any of theirs. Duran came to Canada seeking justice, and he left satisfied that the system hadn't failed his son. But he hoped for something more than a guilty verdict. He'd hoped to see remorse from Luka, an apology, some acknowledgement of what had been stolen from the family. He got nothing. This case comes down to 2 very different pursuits. A young man chasing a dream, another chasing fame by any means necessary. Jun wanted an education, a career, maybe his own business someday. He wanted to be accepted for who he was. He worked hard, never missed a class. He was building a new life. And Luka wanted to be famous. He wanted attention, validation, to be remembered. And he got all of that. People knew his name. Documentaries have been made. Countless articles have been written. But at what cost? An innocent person murdered, a family destroyed, a community traumatized. Jun's father said something heartbreaking. I feel bad that I was not there to warn him that night. That's the pain families carry forever. The what ifs, the if onlys. What if someone had stopped Luka sooner? What if police had taken those animal cruelty reports more seriously? We can't answer them, and we can't undo any of it. But we can be careful about who we remember, not a victim, not a prop in someone else's horror story. Jun Lin, a son who made his parents proud, a brother, a friend who showed up, a student who worked harder than nearly anyone around him, a man of 33 who came halfway around the world looking for love and a future, and who should have had both. With a case this big, it's impossible to cover everything. If you have any extra information, please drop it in the comments. That is all for today. Thank you for watching.